So we have messages in the database, but we are not displaying them anywhere. So we should be able to do all this inside message.js. So here's where we have the body. Our button, we now have positioned way over here, but you may remember before we did that, that was just showing up right here. So that seems like an okay place to put our reactions. So let's make a little div to hold all our reactions. And we should just be able to say message.reactions.map. But we better make sure that's an array first. So how about we do this? Const reactions equals message.reactions or empty array. Then we'll just say reactions.map. And that is, oh, I'm sorry. So reactions is an object, right? And the keys are the emoji. And then that points to an array. So I need object.keys reactions, right? In order to do map over it. And then for each one, the keys are actually the emoji. So I always like to make sure my variable names inside map make sense. So the key is an emoji, so we'll call it emoji. And then for each one of them, for right now, let me just spit out an li that lists it. So we'll say emoji, and then I can say how many there are. So times, and then the count, the number of times it's happened, that would be reactions, square bracket, emoji. That gives me the array of all the users who've reacted with that emoji, dot length. Right? There we go. Joy, x1. If I do it again, Joy x2. If we add this fella, Guardsman times 1. So see, we're spitting out the emotion, the reactions now. Just doesn't look like much, but that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So probably a reaction deserves to be its own component. We're gonna style it a bit, so we don't need to make message any longer than it is. It's already kind of long. So let's make a new component. Our last component. Dry your eyes. Reaction.js. Thanks, I almost believed you. This doesn't need to be a class. Stateless functional component is fine. So we'll import React from React. I think I'm going to want a hover effect, so I should probably have Aphrodite. Let's see, I think message does not have that. Yes, it does. Cool. Import style sheet and CSS from Aphrodite. Const reaction equals arrow function. Export default reaction. And so I'm going to need a style object down here. Const styles equals stylesheet.create because I am using Aphrodite. So what should the reaction be? We want it so that when you click the reaction down here, you can actually just increment that. You can just add your own reaction without having to use the emoji menu if you want to react with one that's already there. So let's do that. So let's make the reaction a button. So return some JSX, and it's going to be a button. Cool. So what components does this need? Let's import this in message. I meant props. Import reaction from reaction. And then my map should, instead of an li, should render a reaction. And what props does it need? It's going to need to know which message it is. So message equals message. It's definitely going to need to know which emoji it is. Emoji equals emoji. If clicking it should add another reaction, I'm going to need that add reaction method as a prop as well. So I should do that. which is this.props.addReaction. Two reasons. It definitely needs the list of reactions because the emoji just tells it the key. But to find out how many, I need to do that. So I could pass in just this reactions array, but then add a reaction needs message as a parameter. Yeah. So it's needed as an argument to add reaction, if nothing else. Cool. Let's see about that. Reaction.js, it's just a button right now. I'll just, let's see. So we passed in message, emoji, and add reaction. So we'll break that out of here. Message, emoji, add reaction. And I'll just spit out the emoji real quick. There it is, Guardsman Joy. So that worked. I wanted to check something. I did this for a reason. And I don't remember what that reason was. Why did I do this? Oh, yeah. Notice there's a little warning here. So let's check our console. Each child in an array or iterator should have a unique key prop. Remember that? So when you use map like this, each one needs to have a key. So key, I'll just say equals emoji, because for each item in this array, that's going to be unique. So good enough. All right. I don't really want it to just say that, though. I want it to be the actual emoji. So Emoji Mart, in addition to the picker component that we've already used, there's also an emoji component that it includes. So you can import emoji from Emoji Mart. Let's import that. Here's some examples. You can pass it in any number of ways to identify that emoji, as well as a size. It looks like the emoji and size props are both required. So this can either be a string or it can be that emoji object. And the size, 16 is the example they use. It's the width and height. 16 seems reasonable to me. So let's see. What I really want in here is this emoji component. Takes a prop called emoji that I should just be able to pass emoji to. And size equals the number 16, so curly braces, not quotes, not the string 16. Let's see what that gets us. There we go. And I see both of them. So I also want to know how many. So since I anticipate styling the numbers differently than the emoji itself, I'll put this inside a span, and I'll just say, what? Message dot reactions, square bracket, this emoji. That gets me an array of all the users who've reacted with this emoji. So dot length. I've got one of these and two of these. Cool. So we implemented the feature. Now we just need to do a little bit of styling. And I won't obsess over this too much. I'll just paste these in and tell you. So let's just style this rascal. So the button itself, I want it to have rounded corners on the border, so give it a border radius. A little bit of padding. I want a blue color when I hover over it. And the count, I want to have a little spacing around it. So let's just style the button first. So on the button, let's say class name, since I am using Aphrodite, I use class name, not style, equals styles.button. And then don't do it wrong, because I just did it wrong. Don't forget, Aphrodite, you have to use the CSS helper method, helper function. There we go. So now they're each styled the way I want, more or less. The numbers are a little too close to the emoji, I think. So I have this style for the count. So in the span, I will put class name equals CSS styles.count. curly brace. There we go. I like it. Now I want them side by side, one on top of each other. To get much bigger than this, it's going to get ridiculous quickly. Ooh. Don't forget, we want to be able to click that and actually have it add the reaction, right? So let's give our button an on-click. On-click equals an arrow function that calls add reaction. Why am I using an arrow function? Because I need to pass in some arguments. I need to pass in the message and the emoji. So does that work? Yep. Change to 2. Very good. So I want them side by side, though, not one on top of each other. That's easy. So in general, when I want things to be side by side instead of one on top of each other, that's a pretty good time to reach for Flexbox in my book. So that's how I'm going to do this. So back in the message component where I have my whole list of these, it's the container I need to style now, not the individual reactions. So there's my reaction button style. Let's add a reaction list. Display flex. That ought to do it, and I'll give it a little margin on top so it's not quite so close to the body of the message. Just half a rim should be enough. So I did that. Now I need to go up to the div in question. It's this, the thing that contains all the reactions. So I put class name equals CSS styles dot reaction list. There we are. What do you mean? Like if you had 20 of these? Yeah, flex wrap is what we will do. Let's see what it does if we don't do anything. Let's just make this a little narrower. So right now it just flows off the screen and makes horizontal scroll bars. That was a really good question though. So let's there we are. Reaction list. Is it just flex wrap? Wrap. There you go. Yep, no one asked that in the morning, so we didn't do it. So this is slightly better. So now these things are a little too close to each other. So we should probably put a little bit of bottom margin on the buttons themselves. So there's some margin right. We'll put some margin bottom of about the same amount, 0.25 rim. Yeah, looks good. Good question and good answer. Who said flex wrap? Oh, we never showed the morning class Davy sounds. Yeah, we'll have to send it. We'll have to send, yeah. What reminded me of it is I wanted to say, yeah, look at the big brain on Chris. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So I would say this is looking pretty sweet, folks. Display reactions on messages.
What would you recommend to use PX and what would you recommend use Ren?
That's a good question. I don't use pixels very much anymore. Just because I don't like to think in pixels. I like to think relative sizes. So I use pixels for like border width sometimes and stuff like that, because that's like I truly want a 1 pixel border. But most of the rest of the time, I use something else, whether it's percentages or rims or ims or something. And then it just kind of depends on some things. I think we used im on Spellbook because I wanted it to be relative to what the font size was right that second. Most projects, honestly, if it's up to me, I just use rims from the get-go. So everything is relative to the exact same unit. And if you need to change that unit, incidentally, what you do is set the font size on the HTML element itself. So not the body, but actual HTML. So if you say HTML font size 10 pixels, now you've got 10 pixel is what a rim is. So you can change that very easily and just make everything in the entire project bigger by just changing that one thing. So that's a pretty good reason to make rim your base unit for everything. You can just make everything scale up a little bigger by just changing one place. Really good question, though.